advantage in terms of openness of ribbing and flatness of bone 1/2. Combine that with the advantage she has in general appearance in the feet and legs department, just showing us more height and width up into the escutcheon than what we see in 2. 2 then is placing over 3 in her turn for the advantage that she now has in the area of general appearance. Seeing such an advantage in terms of width through the loin, length in the rump from hips to pins. You combine that with the advantage she has in body capacity, being wider and deeper in that chest floor is enough to carry her over 3. 3 and 4, 2 really similar style does. Our third place kid just has the advantage in terms of being a little more level while on the move in the area of the loin, as well as tracking out with just a little more width between the hocks and our fourth place kid. Our fourth place kid really do appreciate the leanness about the neck on her, and she should be commended for that.
In our Toggenburg Lake Junior Kid class, first place goes to entry 2, Sydney, exhibited by Colin Devlin, Pendleton, Indiana. Second place to entry 1, Sade, also exhibited by Colin Devlin. Third place to entry 3, Ginger, exhibited by Heather Schuler, Albion, Indiana. And fourth place to entry 4, Clover, also exhibited by Heather Schuler.
Our Oberhausley super junior class. I guess we call it a late junior class. All of these are May kids, except for the second place kid, which is an August kid. One placing over 2 for the advantage that we see in dairy strength. She's just showing us more openness of ribbing and flatness of bone. She's a little longer in that rear rib as well. You combine that with the advantage she has in that front end assembly. She has more extension to that brisket. She's walking around the ring tighter at the point of elbow as well compared to the doe in 2. 2 then placing over 3 in her turn for the advantage that she now has, first of all, in general appearance. It's in the area of the top line, specifically in the rump. She's more correctly level from hips to pins. She has more correct angulation in that rear leg than what we see in 3. She'll combine that with an advantage now in her own right in Darius strength. She's leaner about that neck and more angular throughout than our third place kid. 3 then placing over 4. This is for her primary advantage in feet and legs. She's a doe that tracks more truly forward on that front leg. She's tracking stronger in that rear pastern as well than what we see in 4. Fourth place kid, really do appreciate the extension of brisket on this kid, and she should be commended for that.
In our Oberhausley Lake Junior Kid class, first place goes to entry 2, Luby's Alicia, exhibited by Jerry Lubyhusen, Elnora, Indiana. Second place to entry 1, Luby's August, also exhibited by Jerry Lubyhusen. Third place to entry 4, Doubleback Dandelion, exhibited by Addison Wiley, Holman, Wisconsin. And fourth place to entry 3, Miss T, exhibited by Mallory Starwalt, Kinmundy, Illinois.
Our class of Toggenburg Junior Does, starting off with a close placing at the top of the line. Our first place doe does have the advantage in Darius strength. You get your hands on these two does. We're just picking up such an advantage in flatness of bone and angularity throughout on this first place kid. You combine that with the advantage she has in general appearance as it relates to the strength of that front end assembly. She has forelegs placed more properly beneath the withers with more extension to her brisket today. She'll have to grant to the strength of the rear pasterns on the second place kid. 2 then placing over 3 is for her advantage in terms of length of body. She's longer in the top line, shows up in that back category. She's longer through the loin, she's longer in the rump, and more correctly level from hips to pins. And then body capacity, once again, just showing us more length into that rear barrel today than what we see in 3. 3 then placing over 4, this for her primary advantage in general appearance and the strength of feet and legs. As you watch this doe walk toward you, she tracks out with more width between those forelegs. When she's walking away from you, she tracks with more width between the hocks, more width and height up into the escutcheon than what we see in 4. Fourth place kid, I do appreciate the smoothness of blending about the shoulder assembly, and she should be commended for that.
In our Toggenburg Early Junior Kid class, first place goes to entry 5, New and View Maze Country Char, exhibited by Roger Newenswander and family, Bern, Indiana. Second place to entry 7, T-Walk Jesse's Girl, exhibited by Tegan Walker, Michigan Town, Indiana. Third place to entry 8, Woods River CP Hairspray Queen, exhibited by Jessica Diamond Fisher, Mockport, Indiana. And fourth place to entry 6, Wild Hoof Acres Tahiti, exhibited by Hope Mann, Salina, Ohio.
Our class of April Oberhausley kids here. Starting off with a close placing here at the head of the line, one placing over 2 for the advantage that she has. First of all, in dairy string, she's more open about that rear rib. She's a little flatter boned individual as well. You combine that with the advantage she also holds in terms of being just naturally a little more level in that rump structure from hips to pins than what we see in 2. 2 then is placing over 3 in her turn for the advantage she now has in general appearance. Starts in that front end assembly. She has more extension to that brisket. She has 4 legs placed more properly beneath the withers. And then in the rear leg, she's a doe that shows more proper angulation to that rear leg in her own right now over 3. 3 then placing over 4. This for her primary advantage in feet and legs. She's a doe that tracks more truly forward on that front leg. She's tracking out with more width between the hocks than what we see in 4. 4 then placing over 5. This for her primary advantage in the strength of dairiness. She's a little longer bone pattern doe. She's a stronger bone pattern doe as well. You combine that with the advantage she also holds today in body capacity, being deeper in that chest floor with more increasing depth back into the rear barrel. Our fifth place doe, really do appreciate how smoothly blending she is from the neck into the withers, and she should be commended for that.
In our Oberhausley Early Junior Kid class, first place went to entry 7, Luby's Avery, exhibited by Jerry Lubyhusen, Elnora, Indiana. Second place to entry 9, Luby's Atlantis, exhibited by Jerry Lubyhusen. Third place to entry 6, Luby's Alyssum, exhibited by Reagan Myers, Frankfort, Indiana. Fourth place to entry 8, Double Back Casapia, exhibited by Addison Wiley, Holman, Wisconsin. And fifth place to entry 5, Dreamy Sunset Twirler, exhibited by Amelia Langendorfer, Columbus, Indiana.
our class of Toggenburg March kids here. A lot of really nice does up and down this lineup. Starting off the class with the doe, I felt put the three categories of the scorecard together most correctly. She excels the doe behind her in the area of feet and legs. First of all, she's shorter and stronger in those rear pastern. She's tracking out with more width and height up into the escutcheon. You combine that with the advantage she also has in that front end assembly, just showing us more width in that front end assembly than what we see in 2. 2 then is placing over 3 in her turn for the advantage that she now has in general appearance. As it relates to the strength in that rump structure, she's more correctly level from thurl to thurl, along with being more correctly level from hips to pins. You combine that with the advantage she also holds today in terms of dairy strength, being a flatter boned individual, is enough to carry her over the doe in 3. 3 then is placing over 4 is for her primary advantage in feet and legs. She's a doe that's shorter and stronger in all 4 pasterns. She's a little straighter in that foreleg as well. You combine that with the advantage she has in terms of body capacity, being deeper at that point of elbow than what we see in the doe in 4. 4 then is placing over 5 for the advantage we see in dairy strength. She's leaner about the neck. She's more open and flat boned in that rear rib today than what we see in our 5th place doe. Combine that with the advantage that she now has in general appearance as it relates to the width between the hocks and the width and height up into the escutcheon as she's tracking away from me compared to 5. 5 then is placing over 6. It's for her primary advantage in general appearance. As you get these two does out on the move, we see a doe in 5 that travels around the ring much more level in the area of the rump from hips to pins than what we see in 6. 6 then is placing over 7. She's just smoother blending about that front end assembly. She's sharper in the withers. That gives her both that general appearance edge along with the dairy strength edge to carry her over 7. 7 then placing over 8 for the advantage that she has in general appearance and the strength of feet and legs. She's a doe that shows more proper angulation to that rear leg today than what we see in the doe in 8. 8 then placing over the 4 does behind her. We're just seeing a more proper combination of a flat boned but also enough strength of bone to carry her into production later in her life. And for that reason, she's placing over the 4 does behind her.
In our Toggenburg Intermediate Kid class, first place goes to entry 17, Summer Days Stone Minnetonka, exhibited by Michael Summerlot, Jasper, Indiana. Second place to entry 20, Westerfield's Jackpot Tinker, exhibited by Brady Westerfield, Greenview, Illinois. Third place to entry 18, Summer Days Vermont Villanova, exhibited by Michael Summerlot. Fourth place to entry 14, New and View Bold Ruler Candy, exhibited by Roger New and Swandern family, Bern, Indiana. Fifth place to entry 15, Violet, exhibited by Josh and Michaela Cornett, Manchester, Kentucky. Sixth place to entry 22, Wild Hoof Acres Tadley, England, exhibited by Hope Mann, Salina, Ohio. Seventh place to entry 10, Woods River Rhythmless, exhibited by Woods River Farm, Avon, Indiana. Eighth place to entry 19, Mags, exhibited by Colin Devlin, Pendleton, Indiana. Ninth place to entry 13, The Elena, exhibited by Michaela Sturgeon, Markroville, Indiana. And 10th place to entry 16, Chickpea, exhibited by Heather Schuler, Albion, Indiana.
Our class of Oberhausley March kids coming in a line, starting off with a couple of really close pairs here at the head of the line. And our first pair, one places over two for the advantage that we see first of all on Darius string. She's a little longer in that rear rib, a little more angular throughout. You combine that with the advantage she also has in terms of that front end assembly and general appearance. She leads out more correctly with her brisket, a little smoother blending about that shoulder assembly while on the move as well compared to the doe in two. Two then is placing over three in her turn for the advantage that we see in feet and legs. She's a doe that tracks out with more width between the hocks. She's stronger in that rear pastern. Combine that with the advantage she also has in terms of body capacity, being deeper at the point of elbow with more width in that chest floor today than what we see in three. 3 and 4, another really close placing here. A third place kid just has the advantage in general appearance. While on the move, she really levels out more correctly in the rump from hips to pins than what we see in 4. She's also a little longer in that rump from hips to pins than what we see in our fourth place kid. 4 then is placing over 5. This for her primary advantage in dairy strength. She's smoother blending from the neck into the withers. It also gives her the edge in general appearance in that front end assembly, just a little smoother blending about that shoulder assembly than what we see in 5. 5 then placing over 6. It's for her primary advantage now in her own turn in dairy strength. She's longer and leaner about the neck. She's flatter bone and more angular about that rear rib today than what we see in the doe in 6. You combine that with the advantage she has in terms of general appearance and the strength of feet and legs, being a doe that's shorter and stronger in that rear pastern is enough to carry her over 6. 6 and 7 are two polar opposite kids, but our sixth place kid does have the advantage in that front end assembly, being wider in that front end with a little more natural extension to that brisket. She also has the advantage in body capacity, being wider and deeper in that chest floor and deeper back into the rear barrel compared to 7. 7 then placing over 8. This for her primary advantage in general appearance and the strength of feet and legs. She's a doe that tracks out with, straighter on that rear leg as I watch her walk away from me, with more width between the hocks and more width and height up into the escutcheon. She'll have to grant to the strength of bone on this 8th place kid. 8th place kid placing over the remaining 3 in this class, just showing us a little more proper uphill stature into the withers, a little more levelness in that rump from hips to pins than the 3 does behind her.
In our Oberhausley Intermediate Kid class, first place went to entry 18, Luby's Alice, exhibited by Jerry Lubyhusen, Elnora, Indiana. Second place to entry 11, Tallulah Mint, exhibited by Mallory Starwaltz, Kinmundi, Illinois. Third place to entry 17, Ellis Acres Aspen Bella, exhibited by Jennifer Ellis, Penfield, Illinois. Fourth place to entry 20, Musical Dream Beatrice, exhibited by Caitlin Halverson, Holman, Wisconsin. Fifth place to entry 14, Wildhoof Acres OBD Tesla, exhibited by Hope Mann, Salina, Ohio. Sixth place to entry 16, LS Acres Aspen Baby, exhibited by Jennifer Ellis. Seventh place to entry 15, Luby's Anya, exhibited by Madeline Bedell, Evansville, Indiana. Eighth place to entry 13, White Rock Farm Lamborghini, exhibited by Katie Jackson, Salvisa, Kentucky. Ninth place to entry 19, Blessing, exhibited by Mallory Starwaltz. And 10th place to entry 12, Apple, also exhibited by Mallory Starwaltz.
our class of senior Toggenburg kids here. Starting off the line with a doe, I felt pretty easily led herself to the top of this class. She excels the doe in two. First of all, in dairy string, she's longer and leaner about the neck. She's smoother blending from the neck into the withers. You combine that with the advantage she has in the area of general appearance as it relates to being a little more level in that rump from hips to pins and stronger in that rear pastern today than what we see in two. Two then is placing over three in her turn now for the advantage she has. First of all, in the area of body capacity, she has more width in that chest floor. She has more depth back into the rear barrel. You combine that with her advantage in the other areas of general appearance, such as being more abstaining into the withers tonight. She's more correctly level in the rump from thurl to thurl than what we see in three. Three then placing over four. This is for her advantage in general appearance and the strength of feet and legs. She's a doe that shows more proper angulation to that rear leg. She tracks out with more width and height up into the escutcheon. You combine that with the advantage she has in dairy strength, being more incurving of thigh when viewed from the side compared to the doe in four. Four then placing over five. While she will grant the angulation to the rear leg, she has the advantage as it relates to just being a little smoother blending about that front end assembly, less motion of the shoulder blade while she's tracking around the wings. She has more extension to that brisket as well compared to the doe in five. You combine that with the levelness of rump advantage from hips to pins that she carries as well over our fifth place kid. Five then placing over six. This is for her primary advantage in general appearance. As it relates to tracking around the wing tighter at the point of elbow than what we see in six, you combine that with also being a doe that with more properly placed forelegs beneath the withers than what we see in the doe in seven. Seven then placing over eight. It's for primary advantage, once again in that feet and legs category. As you watch her walk toward you, she's tracking much straighter on that foreleg than what we see in our seventh place doe. Seventh place doe. You combine that with, once again, a dairy strength advantage of being a little more angular and flat bone throughout than what we see in seven. Seven then placing over eight. This for her primary advantage in general appearance. She's more abstaining to the withers, a little more correctly level in the rump from thurl to thurl. Combining that with the dairy strength advantage of being smoother blending from the neck into the withers and sharper in the withers than what we see in eight. Eight then placing over the balance of this class. Once again, just a combination of that correctness of that front end assembly, a little more extension to that brisket, as well as just being a stronger boned individual than some of the individuals behind her.
In our Toggenburg senior kid class, first place goes to entry 27, Woods River MTC Reckless, exhibited by Woods River Farm, Avon, Indiana. Second place to entry 32, Taylor Ridge JC Fire Tahiti, exhibited by Brady Westerfield, Greenview, Illinois. Third place to entry 28, Summer Days Vermont Monrovia, exhibited by Michael Summerlot, Jasper, Indiana. Fourth place to entry 26, May, exhibited by Colin Devlin, Pendleton, Indiana. Fifth place to entry 33, New in View Redbird Applause, exhibited by Roger Neuenswander and family, Bern, Indiana. Sixth place to entry 30, New in View Bold Ruler Trisket, exhibited by the Roger Neuenswander family. Seventh place to entry 35, Summer Days Vermont Vermouth, exhibited by Michael Summerlot, Jasper, Indiana. Eighth place to entry 34, Summer Days Vermont Vodka, also exhibited by Michael Summerlot. Ninth place to entry 31, PF Farms Nosferati's Anna, exhibited by Hannah Neeson, Waynesville, Illinois. And 10th place to entry 29, Summer Days Peru Dearborn, exhibited by Jessica Diamond Fisher, Mockport, Indiana.
Our class of Oberhausley senior kids coming into line. One is placing over 2 for her primary advantage in general appearance and the strength of feet and legs. As you watch these two doors walk away from you, we're seeing such an advantage in terms of width between the hocks, width and height up into the escutcheon, as well as being straighter on that rear leg when viewed from behind. You combine that with the advantage she also holds today in terms of body capacity, just showing us a little more increasing depth back into the rear barrel than what we see in 2. 2 then is placing over 3 in her turn for the advantage she has, first of all, in dairy strength. She's longer about that neck. She's more angular and flat boned throughout as well. You combine that with her advantage in general appearance and the levelness over that top line, specifically in the area of the rump from hips to pins, is enough to carry her over the dough in 3. 3 then is placing over 4. This is for her primary advantage in general appearance and the strength of that front end assembly. Just see more width to that brisket, a little more extension to that brisket, as well as being a dough that tracks around the ring tighter at the point of elbow. You combine that with the advantage she has in dairy strength as it relates to being a stronger bone pattern dough throughout, is enough to carry her over 4. She will grant to the correctness of rear leg set on this 4th place dough. Is that advantage in dairy strength now for 4 over 5 in terms of being a little leaner about the neck, a little more smoothly blending from the neck into the withers and sharper in those withers. Combine that with the advantage she has in terms of feet and legs being a little more properly angulated about that rear leg today over the dough in 5. 5 then is placing over 6 in her turn for the advantage that she now has in dairy strength. She's a dough that's more open about that rear rib. She's a little more angular throughout as well. Now it's her turn to have the advantage in terms of strength of front end assembly, just a little more properly placed forelegs beneath the withers, a little tighter at the point of elbow than what we see in 6. 6th place kid, really do appreciate the sharpness of withers on her, and she should be commended for that.
In our Oberhausley senior kid class, first place goes to entry 22, Musical Dream Chamomile, exhibited by Caitlin Halverson, Holman, Wisconsin. Second place to entry 21, Luby's Paula, exhibited by Jerry Lubyhusen, Elnora, Indiana. Third place to entry 24, Wildhoof Acres Triumphant River, exhibited by Hope Mann, Salina, Ohio. Fourth place to entry 23, Luby's Poot Pickup, exhibited by Madeline Bedell, Evansville, Indiana. Fifth place to entry 27, Totter, exhibited by Mallory Starwalt, Kinmundy, Illinois. And sixth place to entry 26, Teeter, also exhibited by Mallory Starwalt. So we did not have any Toggenburg dry junior yearlings. We need those Oberhasleys, please. Mallory Starwalt, we need your Oberhasley dry junior yearlings, please.
We skipped ahead to our Oberhausley Junior Yearling class, starting off with a close place at the head of the line. Our first place kid does have the advantage, though, in general appearance. She's walking around the wing. She's tighter at the point of elbow. And then in feet and legs, she's a doe that tracks out with more width between the hocks. And she's straighter on that rear leg as I watch her walk from behind. You combine that with the advantage she also holds today. In terms of body capacity, she's deeper at that point of elbow. She has more increasing depth back into the rear barrel compared to the doe in two. Two then placing over three for her advantage in general appearance. This time it's in the top line department. She's a doe that's more correctly level in the loin as well as the rump from hips to pins. Combine that with the advantage that she now has in the area of feet and legs, being stronger on that rear pastern with a little more proper angulation to the rear leg when viewed from the side compared to the doe in three. Our third place doe, do appreciate how sharp she is in the withers, and she should be commended for that.
In our Oberhausley Dry Junior Yearling class, first place goes to entry 28, Charlie, exhibited by Mallory Starwalt, Ken Mundy, Illinois. Second place to entry 29, Luby's Penny, exhibited by Jerry Lubyhusen, Elnora, Indiana. In third place to entry 30, Vivian, exhibited by Mallory Starwalt.
Our class at Toggenburg Dry Yearling, starting off with a real close placing at the head of the line. One does place over two, though, for the advantage that we see in Darius' strength. She's a little leaner about the neck, a little more angular throughout, more incurving of thigh when viewed from the side. You combine that with the advantage she has in the area of general appearance and feet and legs. Being a doe with a little more correct set to that rear leg when viewed from the side is enough to carry her over the deeper body doe here in two. Two then is placing over three for the advantage and depth of body. She's deeper back into the rear barrel, but she's also longer into that rear barrel. She'll combine that with the advantage she also holds today in general appearance as it relates to being a little smoother blending about that front end assembly than our doe in three. Three then is placing over four for her primary advantage in Darius' strength. She's longer and leaner about the neck, once again more incurving of thigh when viewed from the side compared to the doe in four. She'll combine that with the advantage she also now holds in terms of feet and legs under general appearance, just showing us more width and height up into the escutcheon than our fourth place doe. Four then placing over five for her advantage in the area of general appearance. She's a doe that tracks more truly forward on that front leg. She's also a doe that tracks out with more width between the hocks, stronger in that rear pastern than what we see in five. She'll combine that with the advantage in that front end assembly, having more natural extension to that brisket than our fifth place doe. Five then placing over six. This is for her advantage in Darius' string. She's leaner about that neck. She's more open about that rear rib. And then she's more out curving of thigh when viewed from behind compared to the doe in six. Six then placing over seven for her primary advantage in general appearance. She's a doe that's more correctly level in the rump from thurl to thurl, along with being more level from hips to pins than what we see in seven. Our seventh place doe, really do appreciate the sharpness of withers on her, and she should be commended for that.
In our Toggenburg Dry Senior Yearling class, first place went to entry 39, New in View Maze Havarti, exhibited by Roger Neuenswander and family, Bern, Indiana. Second place to entry 40, Valentina, exhibited by Josh and Michaela Cornett, Manchester, Kentucky. Third place to entry 41, Taylor Ridge Fusion Salta, exhibited by Woods River Farm, Avon, Indiana. Fourth place to entry 43, Shania, exhibited by Colin Devlin, Pendleton, Indiana. Fifth place to entry 44, New in View Sousa Karaoke, exhibited by the Neuenschwander family. Sixth place to entry 45, Aurora, exhibited by Colin Devlin. And seventh place to entry 38, Almond, exhibited by Heather Schuler, Albion, Indiana.
Our class of Oberhausley dry yearlings here, starting off with a really strong pair of does at the head of the line. One placing over 2 for the advantage that she sees, and she has in dairy strength. She's a doe that shows a little more flatness of bone and openness in that rear rib. She's also more out-curving of thigh when you view her from behind. You combine that with her advantage in general appearance and the strength of feet and legs. She's a doe that tracks out with more width between the hocks than what we see in 2. 2 then is placing over 3, once again for the advantage she now has in dairy strength. She's a longer bone pattern doe. She's a flatter bone pattern doe. She combines that with the advantage she also holds today in body capacity, being longer into that rear barrel than what we see in 3. 3 then is placing over 4. This is for her primary advantage in general appearance as it relates to being a doe that shows more correct angulation to the rear leg, as well as being a doe that shows a little more levelness in that rump structure while on the move from hips to pins than what we see in 4. 4 then is placing over 5. Once again, a placing I stretched here at the end. Just picking up such an advantage in dairy strength in terms of being sharper in the withers. She's a longer bone pattern doe. She's more open about that rear rib as well compared to the doe in 5. 5 then is placing over 6. This is for her primary advantage in the area of general appearance. She's a doe that tracks around the ring more correctly level through the area of the loin, as well as the rump from hips to pins. You combine that with the advantage she has in dairy strength, being freer of excess fleshing than what we see in 6. 6 then placing over 7. She's more abstaining to the withers, gives her the edge in general appearance, and then she's also smoother blending from the neck into the withers, which gives her that dairy strength edge over the doe in 7. 7 then placing over 8. This is for her advantage. She's just a stronger boned individual. She's a longer boned individual as well. She'll have to grant to the levelness through the rump area from hips to pins that we see on this doe in 8. 8 placing over the 2 does behind her, just picking up such an advantage in feet and legs as it relates to being a doe that shows more width between the hocks, more width and height up into the escutcheon, and straighter on those rear legs when viewed from behind compared to the 2 does behind her.
In our Oberhausley Dry Senior Yearling class, first place goes to entry 40. White Rock Farm, Tanya, exhibited by Katie Jackson, Salvisa, Kentucky. Second place to entry 39. Luby's Eunice, exhibited by Madeline Bedell, Evansville, Indiana. Third place to entry 31. Skittles, exhibited by Mallory Starwaltz, Kenmundy, Illinois. Fourth place to entry 38. Overboard Kissed by Light, exhibited by Addison Wiley, Holman, Wisconsin. Fifth place to entry 36. Luby's You Got a Crook, exhibited by Roy Crooks, Danville, Indiana. Sixth place to entry 35. Luby's You Got Me, exhibited by Ethan Stevens, Washington, Indiana. Seventh place to entry 34. Hoosier Farm, YR Spice, exhibited by Quincy Langendorfer, Columbus, Indiana. Eighth place to entry 37. Dreamy Sunset Saki, exhibited by Quincy Langendorfer, Columbus, Indiana. Ninth place to entry 33. Luby's Adelaide, exhibited by Madeline Bedell, Evansville, Indiana. And 10th place to entry 32. Hoosier Farm YR Chocolate Chip, exhibited by Amelia Langendorfer, Columbus, Indiana.
Really strong lineup here for our Toggenburg Junior champion. Starting here at the back of the line, we have our late junior kid, just a really promising individual in terms of the smooth discipline that she shows throughout, especially around that front end assembly and shoulder assembly. Move up a class, you really have to appreciate the dairy strength on this junior kid. Just long and lean in the neck, open and angular about the ribs. She's sharp in the withers as well. Kid in the center of the ring, this is a March kid. Really have to appreciate the power of this individual. Love the width and depth of the chest floor and the depth back into the rear barrel on her. Combine that with just a really strong set of rear legs on this kid as well. A February kid directly in front of her, once again a really dairy individual. Really appreciate that long lean neck on her, the sharpness of withers, the incurviness of thigh when viewed from the side. And then at the head of the line, our dry yearling, just a really upstanding individual. Really appreciate the width through the top line area, the width in the loin, as well as the width in the rump from thurl to thurl. For me, the closest two out here are that dry yearling at the head of the line and the senior kid directly behind her. And today, for the advantage that she has in the area of general appearance, just a little more correct in that front end assembly, combined with a slight advantage in body capacity and the depth at the point of elbow, I'm going to the dry yearling at the head of the line. She'll be our junior champion. We pull her out of line and look at our second place from that class. Just a really correct doe in terms of strength of general appearance and the width over the top line, the levelness in the rump structure, both from hips to pins and thurl to thurl, but now not quite showing us the same strength and dairiness in that long lean neck that we saw in our champion of the day. So I'm going to come back to the senior kid. She'll be our reserve junior champion.
And our junior champion, Toggenburg, is the dry senior yearling, new in view, Mays Havarti, exhibited by the Roger Neuenschwander family. A reserve junior champion is our senior kid, Woods River MTC Reckless, exhibited by Woods River Farm. Congratulations. So you do not do any of the group classes or champion or anything like that. So you don't do anything until we start again with yearling milkers. Yeah.
And the like the female exhibitor that's after the milkers too.
Yes. So it's throughout the whole breed. So yeah, and keep going. Giving that back to her.
Yeah.
Okay, grand on top, reserve on the bottom.
Thank you.
Look at Pooh and Tiger.
Oh, that's cute. Is that Smurfs? Is that a Smurf
That's a
song?
minion.
Oh no. Oh, a minion maybe.
Is he Tigger in the? Yes. I'll be back. I gotta take a piss.
Oh, there's a tiger down there. Pooh and Tigger.
Pooh and Tigger.
Another really strong lineup for our selection of junior Oberhausley champion. We'll start back here at the end of the line with this late junior kid. Just a really dairy individual. Really appreciate the abstaininess into the withers, the sharpness and smoothness of blending from the neck into the withers. Moving ahead of class into this junior kid, just really appreciate the correctness of that front end assembly with the extension of brisket, the tightness at the point of elbow, just the whole smoothness of blending about the front end assembly. Ahead of her is this intermediate kid, just a really upstanding individual. Once again, really appreciate the levelness through the china and loin area on this doe, as well as being a doe with such a correct set to that rear legs. Ahead of her is the senior kid. Once again, just a really correct doe in terms of general appearance. Really appreciate, once again, the abstaininess into the withers, the levelness through the china and loin area, as well as a doe that really tracks out with a lot of width between the hocks and width and height up into the escutcheon. Our junior yearling, directly ahead of her, once again, just a doe really excelling in feet and legs. Love the straightness of the forelegs, both when viewed from the side as well as the front, as well as her rear legs, just beautiful angulation when viewed from the side on this doe and her rear legs. And then our dry yearling at the head of the line, a really stylish individual, once again really excelling in dairy strength with that long lean neck, the openness of ribbing, and flatness of bone. For me, the doe that puts all three areas of the scorecard most correctly together is the dry yearling at the head of the line. She has the advantage over the does behind her in that dairy strength category, the pliability of skin, the openness of ribbing, combined with the advantage in feet and legs and the strength of pasterns on all 4 feet. So for those reasons, our dry yearling will be our junior champion. We pull her out of line and look at our second place from that class. Just a really beautiful individual in her own right. Really appreciate the front end assembly on this doe with the smoothness of blending about the shoulder assembly, the tightness at the point of elbow, the extension of brisket, but now we're not quite showing us the same strength in the rear legs that we saw on our junior champion of the day. So now looking a little further back in our lineup, I really feel like our senior kid is the next kid in line that shows us the correctness of general appearance and dairy strength out here. And so for those reasons, she's going to be our reserve junior champion.
Senior kid. Yeah. All right, I will announce those. And our junior champion La Mancha is our dry senior yearling, White Rock Farm DDM Tanya, exhibited by Katie Jackson, Salvisa, Kentucky. Our reserve junior champion is the senior kid, Musical Dream Chamomile, exhibited by Caitlin Halverson, Holman, Wisconsin. Congratulations to these exhibitors.
Our class of Toggenburg, best three females. I'm going to start with our group in the middle as our first place group. They excel the group on my far left in the area of general appearance as it relates to being more correctly level and long in the China loin area, as well as the rump from hips to pins. Our second place group placing over the group second from my right. Our third place group for the advantage that we see in feet and legs, specifically in rear legs. As you watch the three does in that group walk away from you, just pick up the advantage in the width between the hocks, the straightness in that rear leg from behind over our group in three. Three then placing over four. Once again for the advantage in general appearance. This time it's in the angulation to the rear leg, showing us more proper set when viewed from the side compared to our group in four. And then four is placing over the group on my far right, just being a group that shows more abstainingness into that front end assembly, a little more strength of bone as well compared to the group over here in five. Our fifth place group really do appreciate the width of rump on all three of these does, and they should be commended for that. Our class of Oberhausley best three junior does. I'm going to start with the group on my left over the group on my far right for the advantage that they show me in that combination of correctness of general appearance, specifically in the abstainingness into the withers, the levelness through the China loin area, combined with the advantage they have in dare strength as a group. They're a little flatter boned and more open than the group we have in two. Two then placing over three, the group in the middle, for the advantage that they have in terms of strength of bone and length of bone pounded throughout. Our third place group really do appreciate the angulation to the rear legs on each of these does, and they should be commended for that. Our next class is going to be our Toggenburg Junior Get Up Style. I'm going to start with the group on my left over the group on my right. Once again, for the advantage that they have just in terms of strength over that top line, the width through the loin area, the levelness in the rump from hips to pins, combined with a slight advantage in terms of having more proper angulation to the rear legs over the group. And to our second place group, do appreciate the extension of brisket on all three of these does, and they should be commended for that. Our class of junior get a sire for the Oberhausley breed. I'm going to start with the group second from my left over the group on the far left. For the advantage that we see in general appearance and strength of feet and legs, they're stronger in their pasterns, a little straighter in that rear leg when viewed from behind compared to the group in two. Two then is going to place over the group three right here, so second from my right. For the advantage that we see just in strength of bone throughout as well as in body capacity, having more width and depth of chest floor and depth back into the rear barrel in regards to their age compared to that group in three. And then 3 over 4, which is the group on my far right, for the advantage that they have in general appearance and the strength of feet and legs, showing us a little more proper angulation and set to that rear leg, both when viewed from the side as well as from behind compared to the group in 4. Our fourth place group, really do appreciate the width of front end assembly on all 3 of these does.
We're just going to take a quick 10-minute break, and we'll start with those yearling milkers. 10 minutes. We need those Toggenburg yearling milkers to the ring. I think there's maybe just one or two in that class, so we'll need your Oberhosleys headed this way as well.
A single entry here to kick off our Toggenburg Senior Show, a yearling Melker. I really appreciate the smoothness of blending about this doe. Love how smoothly blending she is from the neck into the withers, how free of motion she is about that shoulder assembly while on the move. She's well deserving of first and first place udder, and we'll see her back out here for our champion lineup. Pair of Oberhausley yearling milkers coming in the line. Udders in this class will be 1 and 2. Our first place udder over our second place udder. Just picking up the advantage in a stronger medial suspensory ligament, giving her that edge and udder support, as well as being a doe with more fullness and capacity to that fore udder attachment. In the full class placings, along with that mammary system advantage, she also holds an advantage today in terms of body capacity. She's wider and deeper in that chest floor and deeper back into that rear barrel than what we see in our second place doe. Our second place doe, really do appreciate the sharpness in the withers that she shows, and she should be commended for that.
In our Toggenburg yearling milker class, first place best udder went to entry 52, Summer Days Peru Venus, exhibited by Michael Summerlot. And in our Oberhausley yearling milker class, first place and best udder went to entry 48, Wildhoof Acres Shake It For Me, exhibited by Hope Mann. Second place and second best udder went to entry 47, Luby's Adelaide, exhibited by Jerry Lubyhusen.
Class of 2-year-old Toggenburgs coming in the line, a lot of trade-offs up and down this line. Our udders in this class are going to be 1 and 3. Our first place udder over our second place udder for the advantage that we see in the extension to that forudder attachment, the capacity to that forudder attachment, as well as the slight advantage in placement of teats on the udder floor. Our second place udder placing over the remainder of the does in this class, just pick up such an advantage in width and height of rear udder, as well as shape to this mammary system, both when viewed from the side as well as from behind. We look at the full scorecard here. 1 is going to place over 2 for the advantage in the mammary system. In addition to that, she's going to have the advantage in general appearance as it relates to the levelness over the top line. As you get these two does out on the move, we see a doe in 1 that just levels out more correctly in the area of the loin, as well as the rump from hips to pins than what we see in 2. She will, however, have to grant to the strength of rear pasterns on the second place doe. Our second place doe is structurally one of the most correct does out here, and that's why I moved her up here at the end. She has that advantage over the doe in 2 in terms of being more abstaining to the withers. Once again, being a doe that in feet and legs, she has more strength in that rear pastern, a little more correct angulation in that rear leg, and she's moving with more freedom and motion about that rear leg than what we see in 3. In addition to that, she's going to have the advantage in dairy strength, being smoother blending from the neck into the withers and being more open about that rear rib. She'll have to grant to the shape of the mammary system on this third place doe. 3 then placing over 4 for the advantage of the mammary system, once again being higher and wider in the rear udder, a little more correct shape to this mammary system when viewed from behind. You combine that with the advantage she also holds today in the area of general appearance in that front end assembly. She has more extension to that brisket. She's tracking around the ring tighter at the point of elbow today than what we see in 4. 4 then placing over 5 for the advantage she now has in dairy strength. She's longer and leaner about that neck. She's a flatter bone pattern doe, and she's more open about that rear rib compared to the doe we see in 5. 5 then placing over 6. This for her primary advantage in the mammary system. We're seeing a mammary system with more strength to that medial suspensory ligament, a little more height to that rear udder attachment. And then she also has the advantage in the area of general appearance, being more level through the area of the loin while on the move than what we see in 6. 6 then placing over 7. This is for her primary advantage in dairy strength, being more open about that rear rib. She's also a flatter boned individual than the doe we see in 7. Our 7th place doe, do appreciate the angulation to the rear legs on this doe, and she should be commended for that.
In our Toggenburg 2-year-old class, first place and best udder goes to entry 56, Charlotte, exhibited by Colin Devlin, Pendleton, Indiana. Second place to entry 58, New in View Klondike Lucy, exhibited by the Roger Neuenswander family, Bern, Indiana. Third place and second best udder goes to entry 59, Summer Days Peru, Venezuela, exhibited by Michael Summerlot, Jasper, Indiana. Fourth place to entry 53, Woods River Ruthless, exhibited by Woods River Farm, Avon, Indiana. Fifth place to entry 55, Summer Days Peru, Dowa, exhibited by Michael Summerlot, Jasper, Indiana. Sixth place to entry 15, New in View Future Amelia, exhibited by the Roger Neuenswander family. And seventh place to entry 54, Summer Days Peru, Minnesota, exhibited by Michael Summerlot. Addison Wiley, we need your 2-year-old Oberhausley in the ring, please.
Our class of Oberhausley 2-year-olds coming in the line here. Udders in this class are going to be 1 and 2. Our first place udder over our second place udder, while it may not be quite as capacious, it is more correct in terms of overall area of udder support. It has more extension to that lateral attachment, as well as having a forudder that blends more smoothly into the body floor, more capacity in that forudder attachment than what we see in our second place udder. Our second place udder placing over the remainder of the mammary systems in this class, just showing us more width and height to that rear udder attachment, a little more balance to the mammary system when viewed from the side compared to the does behind her. So we look at the full scorecard. Our first doe places over our second doe, first of all, in that mammary system. And then in addition to that, she has the advantage in general appearance as it relates to being a doe that shows us a little more tightness at the point of elbow, a little more extension to that brisket. She's also a doe that shows a little more strength on her pasterns on all 4 feet compared to the doe in 2. 2 then is placing over 3 in her turn, once again for that mammary system advantage, but then for the advantage that she has in dairy strength. She's a doe that shows more openness to that rear rib. She's a little flatter boned individual as well compared to the doe in 3. 3 then placing over 4 in her turn for the advantage she now has in the mammary system. We see a doe with more capacity to that forudder attachment, a little more strength to that medial suspensory ligament. You combine that with the advantage she has in body capacity, being wider and deeper in that chest floor and deeper back into the rear barrel is enough to carry her over the doe in 4. 4 then placing over 5. This is for her advantage in general appearance. She's a doe that shows such incredible length and width across that top line. So that shows up in the loin area as well as the rump from hips to pins and thurl to thurl. And feet and legs, she's a doe showing us a little more proper angulation to that rear leg today than what we see in 5. 5 then is placing over 6, once again for her advantage in general appearance. In feet and legs, she's a doe that tracks out straighter on that rear leg as I watch her walk away from me, tracking out with more width between the hocks than what we see in the doe in 6. Our 6th place doe, really do appreciate the extension of brisket on her, and she should be commended for that.
In our Oberhausley 2-year-old class, first place best udder goes to entry 51, Wildhoof Acres Remember Me, exhibited by Hope Mann. Second place and second best udder to entry 52, Overboard Veleron, exhibited by Addison Wiley. Third place to entry 53, Sherry, exhibited by Mallory Starwaltz. Fourth place to entry 54, Luby's Austria, exhibited by Jerry Lubyhusen. Fifth place to entry 50, Luby's Ari, exhibited by Madeline Bedell. And sixth place to entry 49, Luby's Australia, exhibited by Jerry Lubyhusen.
Our class of Toggenburg 3-year-olds, starting 1 over 2. Actually, udders in this class are 1 and 2, and that mammary system placing 1 places over our second place udder in the area of height and width to the rear udder being higher and wider, as well as being a doe that shows more extension and fullness to that fore udder today. Our second place udder over the remaining 2 does in this class, just showing us more overall area of udder support, a little more height to that rear udder as well in her own right now compared to the other 2 does. We look at the full scorecard, picking up 1 over 2, that advantage in the mammary system. In addition to that, the advantage in dairy strength. She's longer and leaner about the neck. She's more open about that rear rib. She's longer in that rear rib as well compared to the doe in 2. She'll combine that with advantage in terms of being more incurviness of having more incurviness of thigh when viewed from the side compared to the doe in 2. She'll have to grant to the correctness of body capacity on the second place doe, and it is that advantage being a little wider in that chest floor that carries 2 over 3. In addition to that, she has the mammary system edge, and then in general appearance, it's feet and legs. She's a doe that shows a little more strength in those rear pasterns, a little more properly angulated in that rear leg when viewed from the side compared to the doe in 3. 3 then is placing over 4 for the advantage that we see in her own turn now in dairy strength. She's a longer bone pattern doe. She's more open about that rear rib. Then she combines that with a slight advantage in the mammary system, having more width to that rear udder attachment, more capacity to her mammary system as well, compared to the doe in 4. Our fourth place doe, I do appreciate the sharpness of withers on her, and she should be commended for that.
In our Toggenburg 3-year-old class, first place and best udder goes to entry 61, Wildhoof Acres Portia, exhibited by Hope Mann. Second place and second best udder to entry 63, New in View Bittersweet, exhibited by the Roger Neuenswander family. Third place to entry 60, the Midnight Pearl TGC, exhibited by Taylor Sturgeon. And fourth place to entry 62, Trilo Sabaka Foolish, exhibited by Michaela Sturgeon.
Our class of 3-year-old Oberhausley's coming into line. Udders in this class are going to be 1 and 2. Our first place udder over our second place udder. We're just picking up the advantage in terms of having more height and width to that rear udder attachment, a little more balance to this mammary system when viewed from the side as well. Our second place udder over the remaining 2 mammaries in this class, we're just picking up the advantage in terms of capacity to the mammary system, as well as having a stronger medial suspensory ligament, keeping that mammary system held more perpendicular to the ground compared to the 2 doors behind her. Looking at the full scorecard, in addition to that mammary system advantage 1 over 2, we also have a general appearance advantage. She has the advantage in terms of being more correctly level through the area of the loin than what we see in 2, as well as being a doe that has more properly angulated rear legs when viewed from the side. 2 then is placing over 3. In addition to that mammary system advantage, she has the advantage in terms of dairy strength. She's a doe that shows a little more abstinence into the rear. There's a little more length of bone pattern throughout, a little more openness in that rear rib as well compared to the doe in 3. 3 and 4 in a close placing. Just feel like our third place doe has the advantage in that mammary system. Well, not the capacity to the mammary system. It's held more perpendicular to the ground. It has more strength to that medial suspensory ligament, as well as being a little more pleasing shape when viewed from the side. You combine that with the advantage she has in the area of general appearance and levelness through that top line, specifically in the area of the rump from hips to pins while on the move is enough to carry her over forward. Our fourth place doe, I do appreciate the capacity to the mammary system on this doe, and she should be commended for that.
In our Oberhausley 3-year-old class, first place best udder goes to entry 55, Wildhoof Acres Pepita, exhibited by Hope Mann. Second place, second best udder to entry 57, Wildhoof Acres Peppermint Pat, exhibited by Hope Mann. Third place to entry 56, White Rock Farm Imagine, exhibited by Katie Jackson. And fourth place to entry 58, Lubies Out of Africa, exhibited by Jerry Lubyhusen.
Our class of Toggenburg 4-year-olds coming into line. Udders in this class are going to be 1 and 2. Our first place udder over our second place udder. For the advantage that we see, first of all, just in that width to that rear udder attachment, as well as in that fore udder attachment, just showing us so much more capacity and width of attachment there as well. Our second place udder over the remaining 3 does in this class, just picking up the edge in terms of overall area of udder support, the width throughout on this mammary system, just the strength of that medial suspensory ligament as well compared to the other 3 does. When you look at the full scorecard, one in addition to the mammary system places over 2 in the area of general appearance. As it relates to being a little more level over that top line, that shows up both in the loin as well as the rump from hips to pins. In feet and legs, well, she'll have to grant to the strength of rear pasterns on that second place doe. She does have the advantage in terms of having a more properly angulated set of rear legs than what we see in 2. 2 then placing over 3 in addition to the mammary system placing here as well. She'll have the advantage in terms of general appearance. Once again in that front end assembly showing us a point of elbow that's held tighter against the body wall than what we see in 3. In addition to that, in body capacity, she's deeper at the point of elbow and deeper back into the rear barrel than what we see in our third place doe. Third place doe over our fourth place doe. We'll start with the advantage she has in dairy strength. She's a doe that's more open and angular about that rear rib. She's a flatter bone, stronger individual as well. You combine that with the advantage she has in general appearance and the strength of feet and legs. She's a doe that's straighter on that foreleg when viewed from the side, and a doe that tracks out with more width between the hocks as you watch her walk away from you than what we see in 4. 4 then placing over 5, once again for the advantage in dairy strength, she's sharper in those withers, she's smoother blending from the neck into the withers. And then in that mammary system, she just shows us more strength of that medial suspensory ligament than what we see in 5. Our fifth place doe, really do appreciate the depth of rear barrel on her, and she should be commended for that.
In our Toggenburg 4-year-old class, first place and best udder goes to entry 69, New in View MT Amazing Grace, exhibited by the Roger Neuenswander family. Second place and second best udder goes to entry 64, Nestor Acres AR Cotton Ball, exhibited by Woods River Farm. Third place to entry 67, Nestor Acres Paradise City, also exhibited by Woods River Farm. Fourth place to entry 65, Trillo Sparky Flare, exhibited by Taylor Sturgeon. Fifth place to entry 68, Taylor Ridge Brazil, exhibited by Michaela Sturgeon.
Our class of Oberhausley 4-year-olds coming in the line. Udders in this class will once again be 1 and 2 in that mammary system, placing 1 places over 2, just for showing us more width to that rear udder, more height to that rear udder, as well as showing us a little more balance between the halves when viewed from behind. Our second udder over the third place doe, just in that mammary system, showing us more extension to the lateral attachment, more overall area of udder support as well on that mammary system. We look at the full scorecard. In addition to that mammary system edge, she additionally will have the edge in general general appearance. As it relates to the strength of that front end assembly, just showing us a little more natural extension to that brisket. She has rear legs as well that are placed more properly beneath the rump structure compared to the doe in 2. 2 then placing over 3 for the advantage that she has in dairy strength. She's longer and leaner about the neck. She's more open and pliable about that skin today than what we see in 3. She'll combine that with the edge and that mammary system once again over our third place doe. Our third place doe, really do appreciate the depth of rear barrel on her. She should be commended for that.
Hopefully it won't. In our Oberhausley 4-year-old class, first place and best udder goes to entry 60, Piper, exhibited by Mallory Starwalt. Second place and second best udder to entry 61, Luby's Alaska, exhibited by Madeline Bedell. And third place to entry 59, Luby's Abbey, exhibited by Jerry Lubehusen.
Our Toggenburg age doe class. Udders in this class will be 1 and 2. In the mammary systems, 1 placed in over 2 for the advantage that we see in terms of extension of that lateral attachment that gives her the edge and overall area of udder support. She additionally has more capacity and fullness in that fore udder today than what we see in our second place udder. Our second place udder over the remaining 2 does in this class, just showing us more overall area of udder support, more strength in terms of the medial suspensory ligament, as well as having teats placed more properly on the udder floor compared to the other 2 does. When we look at the full scorecard, in addition to that mammary system advantage 1 over 2, she'll have the advantage in general appearance. It starts off in the feet and legs. She's a doe that tracks more truly forward on that front leg. She additionally has more levelness in the area of the rump while on the move from hips to pins than what we see in our second place doe. 2 then is placing over 3. Once again, in addition to that mammary system advantage, she has the advantage in feet and legs. She's stronger in that rear pasture and a little more correctly angulated in that rear leg when viewed from the side compared to the doe in 3. 3 then is placing over 4 in a close placing, but we have the advantage as it relates to dairy strength. She's a flatter boned individual. She's more open. In addition to that, she's going to have the advantage in general appearance. It's now her turn to have the edge and being longer in the rump from hips to pins, more correctly level from thurl to thurl than what we see in 4. Our fourth place doe, do appreciate the depth of rear barrel and spring to rear rib on her, and she should be commended for that.
In our Toggenburg age doe class, first place and best udder went to entry 73, Champion Pinewood Valley, WFM Paris, exhibited by Hope Mann. Second place and second best udder to entry 74, Nestor Acres, Rachel Alexandra, exhibited by the Roger Neuenswander family. Third place to entry 70, the 1 RFG Gwendolyn, exhibited by Michaela Sturgeon. And fourth to entry 71, Sumlot 2 Jackson Miracle, exhibited by Michael Summerlot.
A single entry here in our Oberhausley age doe class, a doe that just really excels in dairy strength with that openness, the ribbing, flatness, and angularity throughout. She's well deserving of first. She'll also be best udder in this class, and we'll see her back out here for our champion lineup.
In our Oberhausley age doe class, first place and best udder went to entry 62, Champion Wildhoof Acres Solution Lou, exhibited by Hope Mann.
Our class of all age dry does coming in the line, starting off 1 over 2 with a doe I felt pretty easily led herself to the top of this class. She excels the doe behind her, first of all in that area of general appearance, having more levelness in that rump from hips to pins, as well as being a doe that tracks out with more width up into the escutcheon than what we see in 2. You combine that with the edge she has and body capacity being wider in that chest floor and deeper back into the rear barrel carries her over 2. 2 then placing over 3. This is for her primary advantage now in general appearance. In feet and legs, she's a doe that's stronger on that rear pastern. She has more correct angulation to that rear leg today than what we see in 3. She'll combine that with a dairy strength advantage, being more open about that rear rib, as well as being more incurving of thigh when viewed from the side compared to the doe in 3. Our third place doe really appreciate the extension of brisket that she has, and she should be commended for that.
In our Toggenburg dry dough class, first place went to entry 66, New in View MT Awesome Neo, exhibited by Roger Neuenswander. Second place to entry 75, Woods River Mai Tai on Ice, exhibited by Zoe Norwood. And third place to entry 76, Wild Hoof Acres Hurricane Miami, exhibited by Hope Mann. Mila Berry, we need your Oberhausley dry dough. Mila Berry.
We've shifted into our Oberhausley all-age dry dough. Starting off the class with the dough, I felt pretty easily led herself to the top. She has the advantage, first of all, in dare strength, being longer and leaner about the neck, more open about that rear rib, as well as being more out-curving the thigh when viewed from behind. You combine that with the advantage she also holds in the area of general appearance, tracking out with more width between the hocks, some more width and height up into the escutcheon today than what we see in 2. 2 then is placing over 3 in her turn for the advantage we now see in general appearance, specifically in that front end assembly. She's a dough with more extension to that brisket. She's tighter at the point of elbow today. You combine that with the advantage she also holds in body capacity, being deeper and wider in that chest floor and deeper back into the rear barrel compared to the dough in 3. 3 then placing over 4. This is for her primary advantage in feet and legs. She's a little younger, but still showing us more strength in that rear pastern, showing us more width between the hocks. She's straighter in that rear leg as I watch her walk away from me than what we see in 4. 4 then placing over 5 in her turn for the advantage we now see. First of all, in body capacity, she's deeper at that point of elbow, deeper back into the rear barrel. But in addition to that, in general appearance, showing us more width through the loin, as well as more width and levelness in the rump from thurl to thurl than what we see in 5. Our 5th place, though, really do appreciate the abstaininess into the withers that she shows, and she should be commended for that. Our lineup for our senior champion Toggenburg selection. Here at the back of the line, we have this yearling doe. Just really appreciate the mammary system on this doe in terms of the width to the rear udder, the extension to her forudder for her age and development. We move up at age group. Once again, just a really stunning doe in terms of that mammary system, the overall area of udder support, the width to that rear udder. That width carries through to that forudder as well with a lot of capacity to that forudder attachment. Extremely dairy doe coming out of our 3-year-old class. Just really appreciate that length and leanness about the neck, the sharpness to the withers, the openness to the ribs that she shows. A 4-year-old doe, just a really incredible mammary system on this doe. Love the width and extension of the forudder attachment, as well as when you get behind her, just a beautiful shape to this mammary system from behind. An age doe here, I believe this was a 6 or 7-year-old. 7-year-old, just incredible correctness of general appearance on this doe. Really appreciate the width and levelness across the top line, as well as being a doe with such incredible angularity and set to that rear leg when viewed from the side. And then our dry doe here at the head of the line, once again, an extremely dairy individual. Just love the sharpness to those withers, the flatness of bone, the openness of ribbing that she shows. For me, it's pretty easy to come to this 4-year-old doe for our senior champion. She has the advantage in this lineup in that combination of strength of mammary, as well as just that width and depth throughout that she shows us today. And so for those reasons, our 4-year-old doe will be our senior champion. We pull her out of line and look at our second place from that 4-year-old class. Just a really correct doe in terms of the strength to that front end assembly. Really appreciate the smoothness of blending about the shoulder assembly, the extension to that brisket, the tightness at the point of elbow that she shows. She's really competitive in this lineup for a reserve champion. Really feel like the closest competition for reserve falls between that second place 4-year-old and our first place 3-year-old. And now for the advantage that she has in the mammary system, just showing us a little more width to that rear udder attachment, a little more overall correctness and shape to the mammary system. And that's on the 3-year-old doe. She'll be our reserve senior champion.
And our senior champion, Toggenburg, is our 4-year-old New in View MT Amazing Grace, exhibited by the Roger New and Swander family. Our reserve senior champion, Toggenburg, was our 3-year-old Wild Hoof Acres Portia, exhibited by Hope Mann. Congratulations.
We bring in our junior champion, reserve junior champion for our selection of overall grand champion Toggenburg and overall reserve champion Toggenburg. I'm going to stay with our senior champion, our senior reserve champion for grand and reserve. They just have that advantage once again in that width and depth, the length of bone pattern throughout that we expect to come with age. So they will be our overall grand and overall reserve. Our lineup for our Toggenburg Best Udder. Our 5 class winners actually remain the same in the Best Udder lineup, and a lot of reasons why our 4-year-old was grand was going to also make her Best Udder breed. She just excels this lineup in the shape to this mammary system when viewed from this, the side as well as behind. Beautiful height and width to that rear udder as well. And so for those reasons, our champion will be our Best Udder of breed. We pull her out of line and look at our second place from that class, and I'm going to once again come down to our reserve champion as our reserve best udder breed. She now excels the lineup in just the correct shape to the mammary system, the extension of that lateral attachment. So for those reasons, our reserve champion will be our reserve best udder breed.
In our Toggenburg Best Udder, our best udder doe of the Toggenburg show is the 4-year-old New in View MT Amazing Grace, exhibited by the Roger Neuenswander family. Our second best uddered Toggenburg is our 3-year-old Wildhoof Acres Portia, exhibited by Hope Man. Congratulations.
Our lineup for our senior champion Oberhausley selection. We're going to switch it up and start at the head of the line this time. Our dry dough here at the head of the line. Just really appreciate the abstaininess into the withers, the levelness through the chine and loin area, as well as being a dough that's extremely level in the rump from hips to pins and thorough to thorough. An age dough directly behind her, just so incredibly dairy. I love that long lean neck that she shows, the openness of ribbing and flatness of bone that she has. Behind her is our 4-year-old class winner. Just really appreciate the capacity to this mammary system. Once again, showing us a lot of overall area of udder support, a lot of height to that rear udder attachment. A 3-year-old doe, third from the back of the line, just a really correct doe in terms of shape to the mammary system. Really appreciate the shape when viewed from behind, the height and width to that rear udder, as well as being a doe showing us a lot of extension and fullness to that fore udder as well. A 2-year-old doe, second from the back line, just a really sharp and dairy individual. She's sharp in the withers, she's flat bone throughout, she's open in that rear rib as well. And then a yearling here at the back of the line, just a doe that's incredibly strong in her feet and legs, really straight in those forelegs, both when viewed from the side as well as the front. A doe showing us a lot of correctness in terms of angulation to the rear legs when viewed from the side. For me, it's really easy to come to this 3-year-old doe for our senior champion. She really caught my eye when she walked in her class. She excels the balance in this lineup in that combination of correctness and levelness over the top line, strength of feet and legs, as well as in the mammary system and overall area of udder support, height and width to the rear udder. So our 3-year-old is going to be our senior champion. We pull in our second place from that class, just a really long-bodied individual. Really appreciate the length of rear rib on her, the openness of ribbing and flatness of bone that she has throughout, but now not quite showing us the same strength of mammary system that we saw on our senior champion. So the doe that most closely fits in terms of that combination of strength of mammary system and strength of general appearance is our yearling here at the back line. She's going to be our reserve senior champion.
Our senior champion Oberhausley was the 3-year-old Wild Hoof Acres Pepita, exhibited by Hope Mann. Our reserve senior champion was the yearling Milker, Wild Hoof Acres Shake It For Me, also exhibited by Hope Mann. Congratulations. We will need those junior champions back to show for overall. Caitlin Halverson, we need your junior champion back, please. Is she there? Okay.
We bring in our junior champions to compete for overall champion Oberhausley. I'm going to stay with our senior champion for grand champion and our senior reserve champion for our overall reserve champion. They just have that combination of correctness of feet and legs, dairy strength, width and depth throughout that we expect to come with age. So I'm going to stay with our senior 2 winners for our overall grand and reserve. Our lineup for our Oberhausley Best Udder, our 5 class winners remain the same here. I'm going to stay with our champion of the day. That's a big reason why she was champion. She just excels this lineup in that overall shape to the mammary system, the overall area of udder support, the width and height of that rear udder attachment as well. So she will be our best udder of breed. Once again, we're going to look at our second place from that class, and a doe that just doesn't quite show us that same overall area of udder support. So I'm going to come down to this yearling doe, our reserve champion. She'll be our reserve best udder breed. She now excels this lineup in that extension of the lateral attachment, strength of medial suspensory ligament. So for those reasons, our reserve champion will be our reserve best udder of breed.
And our best uttered Oberhausley was our 3-year-old Wildhoof Acres Pepita, exhibited by Hope Mann. Our second best udder was the yearling milker Wildhoof Acres Shake It For Me, also exhibited by Hope Mann. Congratulations.
Two entries here in our dairy herd class for Toggenburg. Some trade-offs between these two groups. I'm going to use the group on my right over the group on my left. Our first place group has that advantage in general appearance as it relates to the strength of the top lines being more level in the rump structures, as well as in feet and legs being a little freer of motion about the rear legs. We combine that with the advantage they also hold in terms of dairy strength as a group. They're a little longer bodied, more open than our second place group. They will have to grant some in terms of the consistency of with the rear udder attachment on the second place group, and then for that I want to commend our second group. Another pair of entries here in our Oberhausley dairy herd group. I'm going to start on the group on my right over the group on my left. They just show me more consistency in that overall area of udder support, the height and width to the rear udder attachments, the extension to fore udder attachments, combined with a slight advantage in terms of width and depth throughout over our group. And to our second place group, do appreciate the abstaininess into the withers that each one of these does show, and they should be commended for that. Another pair of entries here in our best three senior females. We've dropped out a goat from our dairy herd class and have really similar groups to what they look like in that dairy herd. And I'm going to go ahead and stay with my first place on my right, second place on my left. Once again, just showing us such an advantage in dairy strength and that length of bone pound throughout, the flatness of bone pound throughout, as well as an advantage in feet and legs, just showing me a little stronger rear leg set when viewed from the side, a little stronger pasterns than what we see in the second place group. Second place group, really do appreciate the width of mammary systems on all three of these does, and they should be commended for that. Our class of Oberhausley best three, once again, just a pair of entries in this class. I'm going to stay with the group on my right as our first place group over the group on my left. We're just seeing the advantage in terms of overall area of outer support, capacity to the mammary system across all three does in the group compared to this group of does in two. Our group of does in two, once again, really appreciate the width over the top line that they show, and they should be commended for that. We move into our get a sire class for the Toggenburg breed. Two entries here, both represented by three dams. I'm going to go with the group on my left as our first place group over the group on my right. They just show us as a group more consistency in that mammary system, a lot of overall area of udder support, a lot of width and height through the rear udders on these does, as well as in the advantage in terms of just a little more properly set rear legs, a little more strength in those rear pasterns in our second place group. Our second place group, I really do appreciate the width of rump on all three of these does, and they should be commended for that.
I would like to take this opportunity to recognize our premier breeder and premier exhibitor of our Toggenburg show. Those awards go to the Roger Neuenswander family this year. Congratulations.
A single entry in our Oberhausen Get of Sire class. Just 3 does that are really similar in type to each other. They're going to be our first place in this class. Really appreciate, once again, the abstaininess into the withers that they show, the width and levelness across the rump from thurl to thurl that they each show. Our class of Toggenburg produce of dam. I'm going to start with our first group as my second group from my left, over our second place group, which is going to be the group on my far right. They just have the advantage in maturity, the width and depth throughout that comes with age, as well as being a little more correct in terms of set to the rear leg when viewed from behind. Over our group in 2. Our group in 2 over our group in 3, which is directly beside them, just showing me a little more correctness in terms of width and height of escutcheon and a combination of the 2 does than what we see in that third place group. And then our third place group over our fourth place group, just showing me a little more consistency in terms of style and sharpness to the withers, smoothness of blending from the neck into the withers over the 2 young does here in our fourth place group. Fourth place group, really do appreciate the abstaininess into the withers that they both show, and they should be commended for that.
Also want to take an opportunity to recognize our premier breeder and premier exhibitor of our Oberhausen show. Those awards this year are going to go to Miss Hope Mann. Congratulations, Hope.
A single entry once again in our last class of the night, this time the Oberhausen Produce of Dam class. Well deserving of first. Really appreciate the consistency of style on these 2 individuals in terms of being uphill into the withers, right and level in the rump from thurl to thurl. They'll be first in this class.